We are at the absolute dawn of this.
When people talk about sea level rise, they don't talk about people like us.
For you first-timers to prison, the bad news is you're in prison. The good news is it's not like no prison you've been to before.
The old saying goes, if you do the crime, you've got to do the time. And over the last half century, the United States has made sure of it, becoming the incarceration capital of the world. The United States has more than 2 billion people incarcerated in prisons and jails. For decades, police, politicians, and prosecutors have taken action to be tough on crime. But even as crime rates fell, the incarceration rate continued to rise, and with it came staggering economic and social costs. Now there's evidence prison, as we know it, might not be the best way to punish offenders or protect communities. So in cities and states across the country, new experiments are underway that could drastically change how we address crime. And if these reforms catch on, criminal justice in the United States could look radically different another half century from now. A future where prisons are more rare and look a lot different.
American culture is pretty punitive. Up until the 1970s, the incarceration rate in America looked like the incarceration rate in other Western democracies. And then it started to rise, and rise very rapidly and quickly in the 1980s and 90s, and into the 2000s, just kind of continued to go up. The pervasiveness of criminal justice in America is hard to wrap your mind around, but to give you a sense of what we're talking about, 1 out of every 3 American adults has a criminal record. 1 out of every 3. I mean, it's a really kind of stark number when you think about it. That's alarming to think that we need to have the long arm of the criminal law reach out to that many people. But there's a part of it that, in a weird way, is hopeful, because as soon as you get that many people who've been personally affected, now you start to get more people who understand this is something that needs to be fixed. And so I do think now one of the reasons why you're starting to see criminal justice reform take off is precisely because we've reached this tipping point and so many people have seen firsthand exactly how insane what we're doing actually is.
Yeah, they're up, right? Yeah, 2, 3. Got it. Oh, what a hop. Got him. Nice shot. Damn, knocked mine off the board.
This place is gonna f your mind up. Because it's not like no prison you've been to before. And for you first-timers to prison, got some good and bad news. The bad news is you're in prison. The good news is you're lucky to be in this prison. It's actually doing rehabilitation. My name is Antonio Shodara, and everybody in the prison call me Dread. Feel free to do the same. Now, you could come in as a convict, criminal, whatever word they want to use today, and leave here with something that's a career. They pay you to help you get your GED. Need I elaborate anymore? And then if you're struggling or having a hard time understanding it, they pay a tutor while they pay you to help you get your GED. I mean, you have nothing but time, and whatever time you come in here for, you have that much time to work on you. Why not? If you guys don't have any questions, I know you got another guy coming.
Jamal.
I'm Colby Braun.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, nice
Good to meet you.
I'm the warden here.
Okay. It's a sobering feeling walking into a prison. The pat down, the prison bars, the steel doors that close behind you. But once I got inside of North Dakota's preferred housing unit, it didn't take long to realize this was unlike any other prison I'd been to. In most prisons, structure and restrictions applied to just about everything: eating, sleeping, recreation. Here, the opposite is true. Inmates can roam in and out of their cells and set their own schedules. They're given a key to their own cell door and even do their own laundry. They have movie nights, access to video games, and can order takeout for delivery 6 times a year. This prison is meant to mimic the outside world as much as possible.
How you doing, man?
Nice to meet you.
Jamal, man. Good to meet you.
So you want to head up to my room?
Yeah, we can head on up, man. Yes, sir. How would you describe this preferred housing to somebody who's never been here before and, is in prison somewhere else?
Being in prison, it would be the closest thing to having outside freedom in prison. Like, it'd be the closest you could get to the streets being in prison. But sometimes I'll be here chilling and be like, would I go out? I'll just go out the door, walk around, say what's up to the guys, and come back just because I can. Because those other units, unless they open your door, you can't go out that door.
This particular prison is sort of leading the country in reforms and how they handle things. Considering you were here before and after the reforms, just tell me what the differences is. Like, how different is it and, like, what the changes were?
When you come to prison, you almost feel like you're alienated, you know what I'm saying? Like you're a rejection from society. And then when you see somebody actually treating you like a human being, you actually feel alive again, you know what I'm saying? So it makes a big difference as far as just the atmosphere. When you're not stressed out, you can actually focus on doing things to better yourself.
How long do you have before you get out of here?
I have a life sentence.
A life sentence. Okay, gotcha.
But that don't mean I can't try to better myself in the meantime.
Yeah.
The relaxing of restrictions in this unit of the maximum security prison has actually resulted in less inmate violence and less use of force by corrections staff. The prison has also drastically reduced its use of solitary confinement, which may explain why the state's Department of Corrections has taken this experiment one step further. Just down the road, they've created a prison that doesn't much resemble prison at all.
This building right here is the education department.
Okay.
This is where you can get your GED or
Oh, okay.
keyboarding. I also got myself involved in keyboarding.
Okay.
And career readiness. I partake in that too because everybody's got to have a resume.
Agreed.
You know, when you get to a halfway house, you got to have a job.
Gotcha.
Right there's our mechanic shop. So that big building, that's where they do all the welding.
This minimum security facility, informally known just as the farm, is modeled after prisons in Norway. Most inmates who live here are nearing the end of their sentences and preparing to re-enter society. They pay rent for their rooms and are allowed to find work off-site in nearby communities.
Morning, Joe.
Morning.
This is the trailer area. Living out here is giving you more independence.
Yeah.
You know, because it's more of a, like you're living in your own apartment.
Yeah.
You know, you're more responsible because it's your space. As you can see, we get our own key.
Yeah.
Come right on in.
Thank you.
Being out here, it's nice and quiet,
Yeah.
peaceful. I could actually focus. We maintain a livelihood out here. We got our own central air, a mini fridge, NCAA football.
Got it.
And then I also got Fight Night Round 3.
Yeah. Does it still feel like prison, even though you have sort of these things?
Being on a daily routine, you know, wake up, go into the kitchen, my day goes by quick. I come back here, I watch my TV shows, play a little Xbox, go to bed. Yeah. But in between those times, I'm still alone. Yeah. I don't have my family, I don't have my friends. So yes, I do still feel like it's a prison. But this is just adding another section of the progressive chain of release. I'm not focused on doing the time. I'm focusing on bettering myself, which makes this stay a lot more bearable than if you just look at the clock all day long. None of us want to mess it up.
Since these reforms were put in place in North Dakota in 2015, the number of people who returned to prison within a year of getting released dropped from 23% to 13%, while the national average stayed almost twice as high. But a falling recidivism rate alone will not significantly reduce the numbers of people behind bars, because many people are serving longer sentences for the same crimes.
The overuse of prisons, putting people in for long periods of time, detaining them before they've ever been adjudicated guilty. We have empirical evidence that these practices make us less safe. If you had prosecutors asking for lower sentences and you had judges giving lower sentences, that would reduce the number of people incarcerated. It's hard to do that because you have people who work in these offices, in prosecutors' offices. They've been there for a very long time, and they have a kind of mindset and outlook that the approach they've been following works, and they may be reluctant to change it. They think their gut instinct that longer sentences are better is the right one. First and foremost, it's a political issue in terms of making it palatable for people to make those changes.
Nearly 3/4 of Americans now believe that the numbers of incarcerated people should be reduced. And as public opinion has shifted, so too has the approach of prosecutors and judges from being tough on crime to promising decarceration and diversion, using things like drug courts and crisis centers to prevent offenders from going to prison in the first place. And in Seattle, diversion programs are going beyond just addressing nonviolent crimes and drug offenses. They target people charged with more serious crimes, including felonies that would usually carry sentences of several years.
This is a situation where, he was legally in possession of a firearm. He's been attending groups, taking advantage of apprenticeship opportunities, working with other young people in the community on violence prevention, really showing the court, I think, that he's taking this very seriously and that this is never going to be something that he'll be involved with again.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. How are you today? Thank you. Good, good. My name is Dominique Davis. I'm the CEO and founder of Community Passageways. We're a felony diversion program working with these young people that are facing serious charges, right? Trying to give them a second chance. And he came in open and willing and ready and eager. He's been coming to our peacemaking and healing circles. He's just been a model person in the program and an example for the other people to follow. And he's a real leader. I created one of the first felony diversion programs around for young people that were going through the criminal justice system facing felony charges that didn't have a second chance or a second opportunity. Once you committed a felony, you had that jacket on you and you had to wear it for the rest of your life, and you went through the system at the fullest extent. We do peacemaking and healing circles to talk about the issues of trauma in our community and make young people aware of some of the issues that they think are normal and daily. This is what's causing you anger and stress and depression and hate. And so we try to make sure that these people understand that so we can start going through a process of healing and getting them to a better place in life.
Yeah.
All right. So my experience today is great because of
Some money called me today.
some money called you today. Okay.
My experience was great today, man, because I got to hear my baby's heartbeat today. So that's pretty lit.
I got all my body parts, I'm breathing, and I ain't in jail.
So last week we spoke about do you feel safe? And we're going to piggyback off of that subject again tonight. So we'll start again here. And I'm going to change it a little bit. What makes you feel safe? What brings that security to you?
These peace or healing circles include young people, their families, friends, other residents, and sometimes even strangers like me. All are welcome to join the discussions which aim to find common ground and build safer communities. But for youth and young adults who are facing felony charges, participating in the healing circles can literally take years off of a prison sentence or keep them from being incarcerated at all, because judges will factor their participation in their sentencing decisions.
So we're at the end of our time for our meeting. So I'd like us all to stand up. If you know somebody who has been plagued by gang violence or any type of violence, take a step into the middle of the circle. If you showed up at community passageways tonight to learn something, raise your hand. We are all connected in one way or another. And that's how I want to end that.
On three, check this out. On three, I want, hey!
When y'all doing the next one?
Next week.
Next week? Okay.
Next Tuesday.
Gotcha.
We have our next circle. Yes.
Hey man, appreciate you coming.
We got a deal. Sorry, we'll tap in. I'll delete it. I'll deactivate it.
I think your network of support is really worth more than gold, and I want to congratulate you on your participation in the Community Passageways program. Thank you. So I will agree to the sentencing arrangement that's been negotiated.
He could have did 7 years easy for this charge and came out with 9 months work release. From 7 years to 9 months work release, he gets to stay in the community. He gets to keep his full-time job, right? He gets to register for school, start his college courses. He gets to keep working with us in the community. Like, that's the win, you know what I mean? Like, you can't beat that. 'Cause I just didn't want to see him go away to the penitentiary and just throw his life out of loop. I'm happy. That's 7 years taken off the table. Proud of you, bro. Appreciate you, bro. You do what you need to do. It's all good now, okay?
Since 2015, the program has reduced or eliminated prison sentences by a collective total of more than 250 years. 2.5 centuries knocked off the books.
I think there are some people for whom incarceration, unfortunately, is the only option, but it's a really small percentage of people. I think that it's been accepted as this false bill of goods that, well, we do it because it makes you safer, and we do it because these are horrible cases of horrible people committing horrible crimes. You know, I think when people learn that actually they're not all bad people. In fact, you know, most of them are not, and they've made bad decisions, but they're not bad people. I think as people learn that and they see it firsthand and they recognize that these kinds of things don't make them safer, you know, I do have some hope that they'll change their mind.